Don Rickles and Johnny Carson were two names that shaped American comedy for decades. They weren't just entertainers, they were icons of a golden era when late-night television brought laughter into millions of homes. Don Rickles, known as the Merchant of Venom, was a master of insult comedy. His humor was sharp, quick, and fearless, but beneath that tough exterior was a warm heart. Johnny Carson, on the other hand, was the calm, collected host of The Tonight Show, whose charm and timing made him a legend. When these two worlds collided, magic happened on screen. Rickles would mock Johnny in ways few dared, and Carson would laugh just as hard as the audience. Their friendship became one of Hollywood's most beloved relationships, built on respect, timing, and years of working together. But behind the laughs and jokes, there were secrets, misunderstandings, and emotional truths that Rickles revealed before he passed away. Truths that showed a deeper, more human side of both men. The story of Don Rickles and Johnny Carson began in the early 1960s, when both were still carving their names in show business. Carson had just started hosting The Tonight Show, and Rickles was gaining fame as one of the funniest stand-up comedians in Las Vegas. Their first meeting wasn't planned. It happened through mutual friends in the entertainment world. Rickles, never shy, greeted Carson with one of his famous jokes, calling him Johnny Boy and poking fun at his suit. Instead of being offended, Carson laughed, setting the tone for a friendship that would last for decades. Over time, Rickles became one of Carson's favorite guests. Whenever Rickles appeared on The Tonight Show, the audience knew something special was about to happen. Unlike other guests who played it safe, Rickles would tease Carson, interrupt him, and make him the target of his jokes, and Carson loved every second. It was rare chemistry, a connection that brought out the best in both men. When Don Rickles appeared on The Tonight Show, it wasn't just another interview, it was an event. The audience could feel the energy shift as soon as he walked in. He would insult Johnny, the band, and sometimes even the camera crew, all while keeping everyone laughing. One of the most famous moments came when Rickles broke one of Carson's props during another show, the Dean Martin Celebrity Roast. Later, Carson stormed into the set with cameras rolling, pretending to be angry while Rickles tried to charm his way out of trouble. The moment became television history. Their humor worked because it was real. Carson's calm, smooth style perfectly balanced Rickles' wild, unpredictable energy. It was like watching two sides of comedy meet, one refined, one raw. Behind the laughter, though, their bond was rooted in trust. Carson knew Rickles never meant harm, and Rickles respected Carson as the master of late-night television. This mutual understanding made their friendship stand out in a business known for competition. Despite his charming on-screen personality, Johnny Carson was a private man off camera. He was known for keeping his personal life away from the public eye. Many of his close friends said he was quiet, even shy, when the cameras stopped rolling. Don Rickles saw this side of him better than most. In interviews later in life, Rickles revealed that Carson had a deep sense of loneliness, something that fame couldn't fix. Though surrounded by laughter, Carson often struggled with trust and emotional connection. Rickles once said, "Johnny was the kind of guy who could make millions laugh but had trouble laughing himself when no one was watching." Carson's marriages were often in the spotlight, and his perfectionism made relationships difficult. Rickles admired him not only as a performer, but also as a man who carried the heavy burden of success. This insight showed that Carson's humor came from a place of sensitivity and reflection, something Rickles understood deeply. Throughout their careers, Don Rickles stayed loyal to Johnny Carson, even when others in Hollywood criticized him or tried to compete for The Tonight Show spotlight. Rickles never used Carson's fame to promote himself. Instead, he treated their friendship as something sacred. When Carson retired in 1992, Rickles was one of the few who spoke openly about how much the end of The Tonight Show affected him. He said it felt like the end of an era, and in many ways it was. Rickles often talked about how Carson gave so many comedians a platform to shine. Without The Tonight Show, many of them, including himself, might never have reached such wide audiences. In his later interviews, Rickles always spoke with warmth when remembering Carson. Even when making jokes about him, his tone carried affection. "Johnny was the best," Rickles once said. "He made us all better just by sitting behind that desk." That simple statement summed up decades of mutual admiration and professional respect. As Don Rickles grew older, his health began to decline. In his final interviews and public appearances, he became more reflective and emotional. While he never lost his sense of humor, He started speaking more openly about the people who shaped his life, and Johnny Carson was always near the top of that list. Rickles revealed that behind their endless teasing, there was a deep emotional connection. He said Carson had been more than just a host. He was like a brother. Rickles admitted that he missed their conversations and the times they spent off camera, away from the spotlight. In one touching moment, Rickles confessed that he regretted not telling Carson more often how much he meant to him. He said, "We made millions laugh, but we didn't always tell each other what we felt. I wish I had told him more." It was a rare look at the emotional side of a man known for his toughness. Through these words, fans got to see how much their friendship truly meant, something real and lasting in an industry often built on appearances. When Johnny Carson passed away in 2005, Don Rickles was heartbroken. In interviews afterward, Rickles described how empty television felt without Johnny. He said that comedy had lost its anchor. Carson had a style that could never be replaced, gentle, clever, and full of heart. Rickles also shared that he felt lucky to have been part of Carson's world. During tributes, Rickles didn't focus on Carson's fame or achievements. Instead, he remembered the small moments, the jokes they shared during commercial breaks, the laughs they had off camera, and the quiet support Carson gave him during difficult times. Rickles often said that the best part of being Carson's friend was that Johnny always made him feel special, even though they were surrounded by stars. As the years went by, Rickles carried that memory with him, speaking about Carson with the same warmth until his own final days. Their story became a reminder that behind every great entertainer is often another person who made their journey brighter. In his final years, Don Rickles spent a lot of time reflecting on his career and the people who stood by him. When asked about his greatest moments, he didn't mention awards, money, or fame. He talked about friendships, especially with Johnny Carson. Before his death in 2017, Rickles shared one last emotional truth: that Carson had been his favorite person to perform with, and that their connection went beyond comedy. He said, "Johnny was the real deal, kind, brilliant, and loyal. When I think of him, I smile." Those words summed up a lifetime of laughter, respect, and shared history. Together, Carson and Rickles shaped an era of humor that still inspires comedians today. They showed that comedy could be fearless yet kind, sharp yet full of heart. Even after both men passed away, their clips continue to go viral, introducing new generations to a style of humor that feels timeless. Their friendship wasn't just entertainment. It was a lesson about laughter, loyalty, and the power of genuine connection in a world that often forgets what truly matters. Even today, you can see the influence of Don Rickles and Johnny Carson in modern late-night shows. Comedians like Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Kimmel all grew up watching them. They often talk about how Carson's calm wit and Rickles' bold humor set the standard for what late-night television could be. Rickles showed that comedy could be fearless but never cruel, and Carson showed that a great host listens, adapts, and knows how to make others shine. Their friendship created a perfect balance that modern shows still try to recreate. Even younger fans who discover their clips on YouTube or social media are amazed at how natural their humor feels. No scripts, no overacting, just pure chemistry. Don Rickles once said, "Laughter doesn't age," and he was right. Their jokes, though decades old, still feel fresh and funny. That's the magic of true comedy. It comes from honesty, timing, and love for the audience, all qualities both men had in abundance. Before his death, Don Rickles made it clear that the truth about Johnny Carson was simple but powerful. Behind the fame, the laughter, and the showbiz persona was a man with a big heart who cared deeply about people. Carson wasn't just a TV host. He was a friend, a mentor, and someone who made everyone around him better. Rickles said that the public only saw a small part of who Carson really was. Behind the scenes, he was generous, thoughtful, and loyal. Before Don Rickles became one of the most loved insult comedians and Johnny Carson turned into a late-night legend, both men faced rejection and self-doubt. Rickles struggled for years in small nightclubs, often performing to half-empty rooms. His style was risky. He would insult the audience, something no one had seen before. Many club owners didn't understand his humor and fired him after one night. Yet Rickles believed in his act. He said, "If I make one person laugh, I know I can make a room laugh." Johnny Carson's early days weren't easy either. He started as a magician before moving into comedy and radio, but success didn't come fast. He faced several show failures before The Tonight Show finally gave him the platform he needed. These struggles shaped both men. They learned humility, patience, and how to connect with people who had also faced tough times. It's what made their later success feel so genuine. They both knew what it meant to fight for a dream. By the time they became household names, Don Rickles and Johnny Carson had built a deep understanding of each other. Rickles knew when Carson was having a tough day, even if Johnny hid it behind his famous smile. Carson, in turn, knew when Rickles needed to break tension with a joke. They balanced each other perfectly, one serious, one outrageous, one calm, one chaotic. Rickles often said he loved teasing Johnny because he was so easy to get. Carson would pretend to be annoyed, but inside, he was delighted. Their interactions weren't rehearsed. They came from real friendship and timing that can't be faked. Off camera, they often shared meals together, talked about their families, and even supported each other during personal crises. Rickles once told an interviewer, "Johnny was one of the few who really knew me. Not the comedian, but the man behind the jokes." That line alone showed how rare and deep their bond truly was. While fans remember the laughter on screen, some of the most touching moments between Rickles and Carson happened in private. During one of Carson's divorces, he withdrew from public appearances for several weeks. Rickles was one of the few who reached out, calling him just to make him laugh. Instead of asking serious questions, he'd open with a joke. "Johnny, cheer up! You're still better looking than me, and that's not saying much." That humor helped Carson through dark times. Similarly, when Rickles' mother Etta passed away, Carson sent a personal letter expressing his condolences. He didn't want publicity. He simply wanted to comfort his friend. These little acts showed the humanity behind two men who made the world laugh. They cared deeply for each other beyond fame and performance. It's easy to forget that even comedians carry pain, but their friendship helped both of them face life's hardest moments with strength and humor. As the years went by, their comedy evolved with the times. The 1960s and 70s were full of change, social issues, politics, and a new generation of humor. While other comedians struggled to adapt, Rickles and Carson stayed relevant because they stayed authentic. Rickles didn't change his core style, but he learned how to adjust his jokes to avoid real offense. Carson gave him the platform to do that safely. They pushed each other creatively. Carson's quick reactions made Rickles even funnier, and Rickles' unpredictable behavior kept Carson sharp. Every time Rickles appeared, it felt unscripted, even though they both had decades of experience. That's what made their comedy timeless. Modern audiences watching their clips online often comment on how natural it feels, and that's because it truly was. Their friendship was the secret ingredient behind that magic. It wasn't just performance. It was two old friends having fun in front of the world. While Don Rickles was known for his fiery insults, those who knew him personally said he was one of the kindest men in show business. Johnny Carson saw that side often. After every appearance, Rickles would thank the crew, shake hands with camera operators, and make sure everyone laughed before leaving. Carson admired that humility and followed his example. Both men treated the backstage staff with respect, which made their sets feel more like family gatherings than productions. Once, a young intern accidentally spilled coffee on Carson's desk just before taping. Rickles immediately jumped in, joking, "You're fired!" "Oh wait, this isn't my show." The audience and Carson both laughed, turning an awkward moment into a memory. This kind of kindness kept their workplace positive and fun. Their shows weren't just about jokes, they were about spreading joy in every corner of the studio. When Johnny Carson retired in 1992, it felt like the end of an era not only for television but also for Don Rickles. Rickles later admitted that he